Hey guys, and welcome back. Today we're going to discuss some quality of life changes for those of you who just aren't satisfied with the way the game plays with the normal default settings. I'm going to show you a few things that I found that helped me out a lot, and then I'm also going to go over the UI that I use. I had a few people requesting that I show how to alter the UI, and of course, the way I do it isn't necessarily the best way. I'm an old keyboard turner, so I use the mouse to click the buttons. It may not work best for you and your playstyle, but at least it'll give you something to go off of when you start the journey of doing it yourself. With that said, let's go ahead and jump in. Alright, so to start us off here, on the first tab under General, I personally hate watching the cutscenes over and over again, so I check the skip playback of previously viewed scenario cutscenes. Then on the target tab, I hate that it makes you turn around and face the target. Come from WoW, so I'm used to being able to strafe to the side, so I uncheck the automatically face target button whenever I'm there. Also, it is sometimes difficult to see with all the blinding effects, so I'll take off and show limited effects from party and others. Under the bags, this is the normal bag. Again, nothing wrong with that, but I do prefer to have the inventory and retainer interface set to expanded. It's weird that Durkin just showed up there. As you can see though, it's just easier to manage. I like it better. Under the display action help, I can't handle it when I can't see the move I'm trying to look at while the pop-up's there. So if you choose fixed reversed, it'll help that a lot. And then you can uncheck the recommendations, play guide, and so forth. Of course, you can always take off the profanity filter. If that bothers you, feel free to leave it on. Alright, so I uncheck all of the options under hotbars, and then I will, at least starting, select the hotbars 1 through 5. I personally prefer to have all of them 6x2 horizontal, and then one 2x6 vertical for my mounts and whatnot. You'll see here I actually forgot I forgot to change the last one to 6x2. Go back and later on in the video and fix that. Okay, so you just enable the cross hotbar. That's what the people that play on the PS4 use. I like it so that I can throw my buffs up there, and it still leaves me plenty of space on the regular hotbars, so that way I'm not having to try to, just have a giant cluster of moves all bunched together. It gives me a little bit more flexibility, and some people may not like the extra free space, but it's definitely something that I prefer personally. I come here under the targeting, under the keybinds, just because I hate tabbing through all the enemies. So what I do is I actually select target nearest enemy as tab, and then I just alter my position, either forward, back, or strafe, in order to make sure that I'm closest to the enemy that I'm trying to target. This is the actual UI setup. You can drag and drop and change however you want, wherever you want. You can also change the size of each of the elements. I usually start off and grab a few, like the statuses, and group them together so that it begins the process of clearing the screen a little bit quicker and makes it more manageable. It doesn't look like such a cluster. And then from there, you can alter the things that you want in the way that you want more easily. And here you can see you can alter the size of each of the elements. I personally prefer to have most of them around 80%, the hotbars themselves around 90, and some of the other pieces as low as 60, with just things that I don't really use all the time, or care to see for that matter. And so you can see here as I go through, I'm just altering the size of each of my regular hotbars to the 90%. It's not bad at 100, you still have plenty of visibility on the screen. I just like it at the 90. Makes it feel more clean. There's the hotbar I forgot to change earlier. So as right here, you could have actually just checked the bubble for 6.2 vertical, but I didn't actually realize that until later. So just so you could see that I'm not like, just so you could see that I didn't perfect the process, you know, I actually show you where I went back and altered it on the back end. Here I changed these to 60%. 60% is not, for my old ass, is not doable. It's too small, couldn't read it. So I do go back and actually change those up to 80%. Things like the inventory, the gill, and the main menu, I mean, those don't really need to be super large because you're not interacting with them very frequently. And when you do, the menu itself is large enough that you can mouse over. You're never in a rush when you're mousing over main menu or inventory unless you're trying to get a potion, but you should have had it on your bar in the first place. We've all been there though. Alright, so starting to come together on the bottom right. This is how I set my inventory, menu, gill. That's going to be my mount hotbar on number 4. This is where I prefer my action help to pop up when I'm looking at it on the left side of the screen, and then of course it'll reverse as we set it in the options earlier if I'm looking at the right. I like my mini-map front and center, down right in front of my face, so that way when I'm going through dungeons, tanking, or whatever, if I'm not sure exactly where to go, I have the map right there. It's not that it's too terribly difficult to look up to the top right to see it, but again, I like that it clears up space on the top and not having it there in the corner. I put my HP, MP, and soon to be gone TP up at the top with my experience bar, and then of course the target bar and the focus target bar I leave up at the top as well. The target bar, if you're trying to get it center, it doesn't actually sit center. You gotta kind of offset it like I'm doing here if you want that to show underneath the experience bar in a more centralized fashion. The focus target bar, however, can go right in the middle. I don't really reduce the size of the limit gauge because it's only up when I'm in dungeons. Doesn't hurt anything. Scenario guide, I mean, it's useful at the beginning of the expansion while you're leveling through story content, but after that, you know, it doesn't really need to show. I actually turn it off most of the expansion when I'm not either at the beginning of a patch or going through a different character that needs, you know, and they need to find their next class skill and I haven't played it in a while. I personally like the party list smaller. I know I haven't tried it like that when I was healing, but I would assume that it should still be fine at that size. Again, if you main heals, you test it yourself, and if that doesn't work out, then it is what it is. Throw the map in the center, make sure I can still see the coordinates on the bottom. And then I'm going to grab the other hotbars, 1 through 3, and I'm going to place them slightly over the edge of what appears to be the box, because again, there's extra space between the east and west and the actual shadow edge of the box. I do 1 on the right, 2 on the left. so that way I have plenty of room on the left, and the right I just use for miscellaneous like TP enhancements and whatnot, or any other buffs that don't fit in the way I have it set up in the cross hotbar. Pull the cross hotbar down. As you can see, I didn't catch it till after, but you probably could see already that I pulled it down a little too far, and it's actually overlapping hotbar number 2. And I will adjust that here in a little bit, but I didn't notice it at first. For the gauges, all classes gauges, I mean, you don't really need to see them very large to be able to see them. You know what I'm saying? The Huton and the Ninki gauge, specifically in this case, I dropped those down to 60 because you could still see Huton as it circles around and time runs out. You can see when Ninki fills up, and you can hear it make the system noise as it hits 80, and then you know that you're on your way to 100. The progress bar, I take that to 80. Again, that could easily go to 60 as well. I actually put that above the cross hotbar in most cases. In this instance, again, I was just working my way through it. I hadn't gotten to the place where I resolved it, but I do eventually put it up above. Now, the enemy list, my wife hates this, but I prefer to have the enemy list right here next to my hotbars, especially when I'm tanking. So if I happen to lose aggro, I could just reach over and click, and I don't have to go all the way to the far left side of the screen to try to grab a hold of an enemy's name, or hope if it's a large pull that I can reach in and click on them. Put my alliance lists just under my party list, so if I'm healing, they're all right there. And then we're going to now, I realized that I did the hotbar wrong, so I'm not actually, yeah, see, I cut it out. But I did go and actually manually change it. And like I said, you can do it on this system just by selecting the little button rather than exiting and re-entering through the menu. Here, I adjusted the size of the enhancement windows, and then I moved them all down just above the hotbar, which is again why I had to alter the position of the progress bar, because it was in the way of the enhancements. Once I get those all set down where I want them, I move them. I usually confine them within the actual box for the cross hotbar. They really don't need a ton of space, and I don't like them all the way across the screen. This is more than enough room to show pretty much every possible enhancement, enfeeblement, or other all at the same time without really melding into each other. We set the progress bar, and I moved that just for kicks, but looks like we're done. So once it's all said and done, you can also adjust the chat window. I hadn't done that in this video, but when I on my normal actual main character, I do have the chat window moved over to the left and the size adjusted to fit and make it a little more neat there. There you go. See, I can see where I overlapped here, so I'm gonna take all this stuff off of there, realize it, and then jump back in and move the skills up. No, I'm not. I'm actually going to set my mounts first. Now this is an alt, so it doesn't really have a whole lot of stuff going on. I'll grab my chocobo, his moves, so you can set those however you want. I just like him over there, so that way I can summon him easily when I'm leveling alternate jobs. Then we come in here. We're going to set up all our skills, and that's where I noticed that this was incorrect. So move everything up a little bit. Fit the box within the enfeeblements. Boom. There we go. Alright. Yeah, like I said earlier, I realized that I couldn't read anything because I'm old and, you know, us old folks, we gotta have things a little bit bigger. At that point, I was able to read it, so that was more manageable. And then it's just a matter of grabbing the different skills, setting them how you want them. I changed my mind 3 or 4 times as we go, but you get the general idea. I like to have my attacks, and this is true for all classes, on the bottom. And then from there, you know, move on to AoE skills up higher, off globals up higher on the second set, and then miscellaneous over there on the right. Also, I don't have the memory capacity or desire to memorize the combinations for the ninjutsu, so I just make macros. Alright guys, well thanks again. I hope that was insightful and helped you in some way. We appreciate you taking time to watch the video, subscribe, like, and we will see you again next time.